Greetings, programs. This is DecKrash, better known as Brandon, and you're watching another Tron Uprising review. Ladies and gentlemen on YouTube, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. I am back again. Sorry for such a long hiatus with the Tron updates. I was busy with a whole lot of other things, and well, life just kind of happened. So, with the restart of Tron Uprising on Disney XD, I've decided to go ahead and pick up where I left off, to where we go ahead and catch up with where we were. So, when we last left off, we were on the episode, let me see, Identity, in which Beck had lost his disc. Well, now we move up to episode 6, which is called Isolated. Now, this starts off with Beck stealing a data cube from General Tesla that has like all the security codes for their base, and so he goes on ahead and six Paige after him, and of course Paige and the little sniveling weasel. I keep forgetting his name. Pavel. They both go after Beck, of course in his Tron disguise, and in the ensuing sky chase, both Beck and Paige crash on this island that's like out in the middle of nowhere, and the crash basically damages the code of the island. The island starts to disintegrate. Parts of it are de-rezzing one by one. So Paige has to work with Beck in order to get off the island. And this story is one part how this whole deal works out, another part of a more introspective look at Paige, showing how she became a soldier in Tesla's army. So what we have here is that Paige was a medical program, showing she also had sort of a slight talent for music, and she ends up running into Cora. For those of you, of course, seen Tron Legacy, Cora is that program that was helping out Flynn. And this takes place long before all the ISOs were all destroyed. At least this flashback. She meets up with Cora, not knowing that she's an ISO. Little insignia thing on her upper arm that's shown like in the movie is covered up. She helps him out, and starts to develop a slight friendship with Cora, but ends up finding out that Cora's an ISO. Not too long afterwards, the military starts going in and searching the whole city for ISOs because they know about Cora. And at this point, Paige knew who Cora was, so Cora, to protect herself, knocked Paige out and escaped. When Paige woke up, all the programs in the hospital where she worked were dead. There was it looks like bluish, I guess, pixels of blood splattered. It was a pretty gruesome sight. Well, of course, what she wasn't told is that this was the military's doing. They just went in and just decided, well, finding a couple of ISOs in this group of people is going to be like finding a needle in a haystack, so we just destroy them all. And that's what they did. She wakes up to General Tesla, and Tesla tells her that the ISOs did all that, even killed her friends. And so she, out of a desire for revenge, joins the army under Tesla. And so that tells like a little bit of backstory involving Paige. Cool thing is that Olivia Wilde lends her voice talents to Cora. Olivia Wilde, of course, the person who played Cora in Tron Legacy. So that was a pretty neat little bit to actually see her character in there. And I'm looking at the Wikipedia entry, and it shows her as a recurring character, so we may see her again, maybe in some flashbacks, or maybe in the quote-unquote present point. So, through the plot of this one was pretty simplistic. It goes back to the present. Paige ends up nearly buying it while working with in a truce with Beck in his Tron disguise. She never sees his face; it's covered by that shield. He needs a power pack from the helicopter that she was chasing him in order to jury rig a specialized boat to get him off the island. But Paige ends up getting caught on a part of the island that was derezzing, and she's hanging on for dear life. Beck tries to get to her, but right before the island fully derezzes, she falls in the water. He goes in, swims after her, try to help her out, but then General Tessler comes in his own chopper and drops a hook down to pick her up. And of course, she goes to General Tessler, and then they're talking about, General Tessler sees that she returned the cube and tells her she did a good job. And it shows that Paige, Paige, of course, completely ignorant of the lie General Tessler told her, has all this respect for this man. And General Tessler is just a real sick little monkey. And in later episodes, you're going to see this whenever I talk about and do little reviews of this episode. So, breakdown. Visually, pretty interesting, nothing special. This one was very simplistic. I think they were kind of rolling back on the budget, doing a more introspective episode. So really all you had was the scenes from the flashback involving Paige's memories, and that was just in a very limited area, mostly in a hospital and maybe her apartment. And then and of course the interior of the helicopters, and also the island. So it was very, very light on scenery. So that one gets low points, but it's not necessarily. I mean, I would probably just give that maybe about a general 7 out of 10. I mean, it was nothing special, but still top-notch visuals as always. Where where it counts. This series does not slack in that. Characterization, great character developing episode. I love introspective character developing episodes because, especially someone like Paige, I was like, it's about time that they explained her past, explain why she's so doggedly loyal, and to understand all the layers of lies and basically subversive activities that the military under Clue did in order to enforced in order to either turn programs to their cause or turn them against the ISOs. There was this one scene where they where Cora is talking to other programs, and of course they don't know she's an ISO, and they're talking about, well, you were there during the purge. I heard ISOs can destroy programs without even having to derez them. I mean, it was just some really ridiculous things that, of course, had been spread around anyway. And if you remember the movie, Clue doesn't like imperfection, and you saw the ISOs as imperfect. As a matter of fact, I guess I want to take this moment to say that there were some interesting things that led up to the movie that showed a bit more of the story. There was a comic book series that led up to the movie that is canon to the story that basically tells how Clue slowly over time turned against Flynn and began to turn the programs against the ISOs during the time that Flynn had to leave the system for the real world because he had a life in the outside world, a wife and a wife to take care of and a son to raise. But this pretty much fills in some of the gaps here and there. Also, of course, there's the video game Tron Evolution. Not terribly good, but at least story-wise, it does fill in some of the gaps. So you're just seeing more of those gaps filled in. If you're a real big Tron fan like I am, you're going to like this episode because it really develops things, tells more of the backstory, which I always like to hear. Of course, character-wise, it really just focused on Paige for the most part, and really didn't focus too heavily on many others. Even Beck, it was just showing that, despite Beck's trying to help Paige out, things turned out somewhat less than in his favor because all he wanted to do was show her that, he was one of the good guys. And that just didn't fly, unfortunately. Tessler got to her before he could. and Paige was actually kind of developing a sort of a tenuous trust with him, maybe even realizing that he might not be such a bad guy after all, and then things kind of just went heels up. So, on the whole, this episode does get a solid 8. Only reason why it's just not as much going on as there is in the other episodes, but I like that because this one really was something that the writers used to give a massive amount of focus on one particular character, and so it gave them some room to work with without having to have several other scenarios that they have to squeeze within a 25-minute span of time. So this one was pretty interesting, and I think that one particular thing leads into the next episode, but of course that's going to be a story for next time. So I'll go ahead and get started on that. I have to go back and look at some of these episodes to jog my memory, and just to let you know, the series is restarted, and it's gotten up to a really strong start. And when I get to that episode, I will go ahead and go full force into it. And I promise you, no more delays. We're going to catch up with everything, and we're going to go on from there. So I hope you enjoyed this particular review of the Tron Uprising. And as always, comment, subscribe. I welcome any kind of critiques or any kinds of thoughts. As always, keep it civil. And so until next time, people, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. As always, stay lucky and stay blessed.